Siren's Curse is the New-for-2025 roller coaster at Cedar Point. This is the first full-size tilt coaster to open in the United States. The ride features a terrifying tilt track that basically goes viral on its own, and leads directly to a vertical drop. That alone is noteworthy, but this ride also features a complete layout with 2 inversions and a dozen airtime moments. Does this allow the ride to stand out America's roller coaster? Find out in this review. I have to begin with this ride's complex history. It involves multiple rides, parks, and a corporate merger. Bolger and Mabillard debuted the dive coaster in the late 1990s with Oblivion at Alton Towers. This was a theatric ride model built around suspense. Trains were held atop an ultra-steep plunge via a holding brake. After a few seconds, they were released. Vekoma was inspired by this model and developed the tilt coaster. This debuted in 2002 with Gravity Max at Discovery World in Taiwan. The train moved onto a piece of track that would rotate from the horizontal position all the way to the vertical position. Both these coaster models took a while to take off. Only 4 other dive coasters were built in the decade following Oblivion, but now we have 19 of them, and they are popping up almost annually, particularly within the Six Flags chain. We saw Dr. Diabolical's Cliffhanger at Six Flags Fiesta Texas in 2022, Iron Menace at Dorney Park in 2024, and Wrath of Rakshasa at Six Flags Great America in 2025. Then next year, we will have Tormenta Rampaging Run, a Giga Dive coaster at Six Flags Over Texas. The tilt coaster took far longer to catch on. This particular element was used in some indoor coasters, particularly those with dark ride scenes, but it wasn't adopted again on a full-size coaster until 2016. The then Golden Horse, which is now known as Jinma Rides, developed the Broken Rail coaster. They built 4 of these in China. Vekoma would not build their second tilt coaster until 2 decades after their prototype. In that time, Vekoma has had a major glow-up. They now produce some of the smoothest coasters on the planet. They also updated the tilt track technology to be more efficient. Now the model seems to be on the verge of exploding. They are currently building Circuit Breaker at Codaland and Iron Rattler at Six Flags Qiddiya. And this year in 2025, Cedar Point opened Siren's Curse. Although this particular ride was not originally intended for Cedar Point. In 2022, it was revealed that Energylandia in Poland would be getting Vekoma's first modern tilt coaster. This park opened in 2014 and already boasts 19 different roller coasters. A major reason for this is because the park received government funding to turn it into a major tourist destination. The tilt coaster will have a price tag of 51 million Polish zloty, or $14 million US. 40% of that cost would have been covered by a grant. When the government denied the grant, Energylandia announced the project was cancelled in 2023. But the ride had already been designed and possibly manufactured, so Vekoma started to sell it to other parks. It was purchased by Six Flags Mexico. Track was spotted on site in June of 2024, and the park started promoting a new coaster for 2025. However, the government rejected the park's plans, citing environmental issues. Now, this was not the first time this park ran into permit issues. Their hypercoaster in Superman El Ultimo Escape was delayed 2 years for the exact same reason, but they ultimately found a way to build that coaster. So the park began looking for another spot for the tilt coaster, but the rug was pulled out from underneath them, and the ride was moved to Cedar Point. Why did this happen? There were 2 key developments. First, Six Flags officially completed their merger with Cedar Fair. This added 11 more theme parks to the chain, including Cedar Point. Second, Cedar Point opened Top Thrill 2 in 2024. This was the reimagining of Top Thrill Dragster. This kept the top hat, but replaced the hydraulic launch with a swing launch and a 420-foot or 128-meter tall spike. This was a much anticipated addition, and it received rave reviews from those who rode it, but it operated for just 8 days due to mechanical issues with the trains. The park never said how long it would be closed, but it quickly became apparent it would be an extended issue. It never reopened in 2024. This irritated season pass holders, many of which who purchased passes specifically for this ride. This reimagining was done by Zamperla. They had never designed a ride in this scale before, and was utilizing their prototype Lightning trains, so they may have bit off a bit more than they could chew. The park planned to have the ride operational again for the 2025 season, but there was some skepticism, so as a contingency plan and an apology for pass holders, Six Flags moved the tilt coaster from Mexico to Cedar Point. This clearly was a last-minute decision, which is evident for a few reasons. First, Cedar Point is one of the most visited regional theme parks in the world, and they place a huge emphasis on capacity. That is why almost all their coasters have several block zones and are typically capable of running at least 3 trains. Siren's Curse only has 2 trains, which would have been fine for Energylandia, but for Cedar Point, it has a lower throughput than the park's other major coasters. Second, Cedar Point likes to have their new additions ready for opening day. Their previous 13 coasters all opened in May. I believe the last time a new coaster was not ready for opening weekend was Maverick, and that was because the barrel roll was removed at the last second, but that ride still opened by Memorial Day. Siren's Curse did not open until the last week in June. This was a major bummer for enthusiasts who bought tickets to Coastermania, which is typically the first weekend in June. But ever since this coaster has opened, it has received almost universal praise. Not only is it a crowd pleaser, but it's also super reliable. I have seen some figures that was the park's most reliable coaster this past summer. That is mighty impressive for a new ride, especially for one featuring a complex element like a tilt track. It just shows how well engineered Vekoma's modern rides are. This ride was marketed as North America's tallest, fastest, and longest tilt coaster. Many were surprised that Cedar Point did not claim it to be the continent's first tilt coaster. But there were some smaller rides stateside that had the element on a much smaller scale. I won't name those coasters though in case you haven't been on them, because the element there is intended to be a surprise one. The tilt track here is the main selling point with Siren's Curse, so it fittingly is front and center. Siren's Curse was placed in the plot of land formerly home to Wildcat, which was a compact Schwarzkopf coaster that operated at the park from 1979 to 2011. Once it was removed, that spot rotated between a temporary stage, food trucks, and most notably, a monster truck experience. Siren's Curse is a larger ride than Wildcat, which is why they had to reroute the perimeter road to create some additional space. For such a last-minute addition, this ride's presentation is excellent. You would never know that part of this ride sits on land that was previously a parking lot and/or roadway. You don't really see this ride from a distance because it's dwarfed by so many other coasters at this park, but it has a commanding presence once you're up close. The tilt track is smartly positioned next to the midway, and it is a spectacle. All eyes gravitate towards it whenever it's moving. It is unlike any other element in the United States right now. There is something unnerving seeing a giant piece of track moving through the air like that. I particularly love how this coaster looks at night. We have seen a lot of coasters light the track, but this coaster instead adorns the side of the train with lights. It is a beautiful aesthetic. The ride also has some theming. The site was supposedly home to Lake Erie's shipping company. You see some shipping crates as you make your way through the queue. This is accompanied by some water features that I was not expecting. The track is painted maroon, and this looks sleek. This looks great from the distance. Then the supports are mostly gray, but the bottoms are smartly painted a mix of green to resemble algae, and brown to resemble rust. It is a neat detail to make the ride feel more weathered than it really is. That is because the site has become haunted with sirens. If you're unfamiliar with these creatures, they are prominent in Greek mythology. They are females with alluring and captivating voices. They are often depicted as mermaids who lure sailors in, only to wreck their ships and eat their bodies. I love this theme. If you look at the station at night, there are some warnings that flash in blacklit paint. You really can't see them during the day though. Beyond the visuals, there are some nautical sound effects playing throughout the queue that play into the atmosphere. Then the coaster has onboard audio as well. The sirens tease you during the ascent and tilt track. Then you have a high-octane soundtrack during the main layout. This was a nice addition I was not expecting, and it definitely amps you up. You don't have too many visuals during the main layout though. I think this was a missed opportunity after all the theming up to that point, but the elements are strong enough to hold their own, and there is a subterranean trench after the triple down at least with some fog. The queue is routed through the attraction itself. so you get some awesome views of the coaster cycling all around you. This definitely built anticipation, possibly too much anticipation, as you'll often be waiting a while. This ride routinely sported 1.5 to 2 hour waits ever since opening. While I imagine the ride's newness led to a spike in the inaugural season, I suspect it'll still have a 1 to 1.5 hour wait daily going forwards between its popularity and the capacity. As noted earlier, this ride is just 2 trains. Each train holds a max of 24 riders, as they have 6 cars with 2 rows of 2. The crew does everything they can to pump people through at least. They call for single riders to fill every seat, and the ride almost never stacked. I would be terrified to know how long this line would be if there was a bad crew here. What are the best ways to avoid a long wait with this coaster? Siren's Curses currently offer an early entry, and I suspect that will be the case in future seasons as well. This perk allows you in the park 1 hour early every single day. It is available to those with prestige passes or those staying on site. It is also available to those with gold passes in 2024, but not in future seasons. If you win here first thing during early entry, you could board this ride in less than 15 to 20 minutes. This is because you're some of the first guests in the park. Further, Fastlane does not start until the park's official operating hours, so the standby queue moves significantly faster. In a similar vein, you can enter this ride's queue right before the park's official closing time. Since there will be no more additional Fastlane users admitted, pretty much everyone will be pulled from standby. Another approach is to use Fastlane. Several passes have one-time Fastlanes attached to them, or you can purchase the upcharge for the day. This is pricey, but it can save a lot of time. Now, I did hear that the Fastlane queue for this ride was often 45 to 60 minutes over the summer, but was no more than 15 minutes during my Halloween weekend's visits. I believe you need to purchase a paid locker outside the attraction for larger bags, similar to several other coasters at this park. Towards the end of the queue, there are free lockers for your smaller belongings. This is perfect for phones, wallets, keys, drink cups, and fanny packs. Nothing can ride with you. The only exception are glasses if they're secured by an athletic strap. You then pass through a metal detector to verify nothing is on you. You then maybe have 5 more minutes to queue. There's a staircase leading to the station. There, you are assigned a row. If you ask nicely, most crew members will honor row requests. They will always grant requests for open rows. If the seat you want is already occupied, most employees would let you wait an extra cycle. The only time they did not was the end of the night, which is understandable. A lot of parks have that policy in place. I had a slight preference for the back row. Due to the tilt mechanism, you get a longer drop there. The front is well worth trying at least once for that freaky unobstructed view of the track disconnecting. Most elements hit no matter where you sit, so there's not a bad seat in this ride. The restraints are identical to what can be found in most modern Vekomas. You have an overhead vest harness secured by a secondary seatbelt. These restraints are very comfortable. They look similar to the restraints in the park's beat-em loopers like Valraven and Gatekeeper, but the vests on Siren's Curse have less resistance to them, meaning it is easier to feel the negative G's. Once secured, you roll forwards and have one of the faster chain lifts out there. It takes roughly 15 seconds to reach the top. That is it. During this time, you'll hear the melodious harmony of the sirens. Cedar Point marks this rise 160 feet, or 49 meters tall. But I believe that is the tallest point of the tilt track when vertical. The lift itself is several stories shorter than that, probably around 130 feet or 40 meters if I were to guess. At the top, you get a beautiful view overlooking the park and Lake Erie. You then roll forwards, turn slightly left, and stop on the edge of the tilt track. There's no bumper in the end, so it's a pretty scary visual, and this is paired with some narration saying you've been lured in by the siren's call. After a brief pause, the track begins to tilt. In back, you are rotated upwards. If you're up front, you tilt downwards. You are staring at the pavement beneath you, completely dependent upon the ride's safety system to keep you safe. On that note, this ride model has a flawless safety record. There are multiple redundancies in place to make sure you are not released prematurely. Still, it plays tricks with your mind. I thought it would feel similar to the tilt in Falcon's Fury at Busch Gardens Tampa, but it is far freakier here because you have a piece of track underneath you. Once you're fully vertical, you pause for a few seconds. The sirens tell you that you're going to plummet to your doom, and then you're released. This drop is spectacular. It offers nice floater and a great freefall sensation. It feels more similar to a drop tower than a traditional coaster drop because of the sudden release and orientation. It is especially great in the rear rows because you have some extra freefall time. The end of the drop sharply banks left. I thought this would offer some violent laterals, but it's engineered so perfectly that it only offers light laterals. This was probably the one part that was a disappointment from a force perspective, but it was quite minor in the grand scheme of things. The pullout throws you back into your seat, offering great positive Gs. You then have what I call the camel dive. You have a half camelback, followed by a dive loop that doesn't quite invert. This offers sustained ejector all throughout the train. It is strongest and most sustained up front. While the negative Gs are weaker in the back, it is still okay ejector, and you get some good whip as you twist downwards, so it is a fair compromise. The resultant pullout once again offers great positive Gs. Next is the first of two inversions. RCDB calls them corkscrews, but they look and ride more like barrel rolls to me. You charge through this. In front, you get fantastic laterals. The laterals are merely solid further back in the train, but you do get some decent floater there that you do not get up front. You then twist upwards and have a trick track triple down. Try to say that 3 times fast. You have 3 consecutive downward humps as the train undulates side to side. The first hump is significantly better in the back. You get very weak floater in front versus a solid ejector pop in the back. The middle hump once again is better in the back. The front gets decent floater, while the back gets decent flejector. Then the final hump offers nice floater for all, and it dives into the aforementioned underground tunnel, which is a really fun visual. Next is the far turnaround, which is a giant S-twist. You get a little floater in front, but this is another element that I prefer in the back. It offers a good ejector pop there, and you're abruptly yanked downwards. The pullout then offers high and sustained positive Gs for all. It is the one spot in the ride where I started to gray out. You then fly over an S-hill. This is the ride's strongest airtime moment in my opinion. It delivers a great burst of ejector in all rows. Without delay, you rip through another barrel roll. You get nice laterals and good lifter airtime in front. In back, I didn't really feel the laterals. Instead, I just caught a whole lot of float there. The finale then has a series of bunny hills. The first is a small wave turn. It delivers a solid but quick pop in front. The airtime was less abrupt and more floaty in back. Next are back-to-back S-hills. The first offers a solid ejector burst for all. The second offers similar airtime in the back, but it's an even stronger pop in the front. You then jump into the brakes, getting another quick burst of air in front. In back, it is more like okay floater. You then smoothly decelerate as the music hits a crescendo. You then roll back into the station, ending the 2,966 foot or 904 meter long experience. Siren's Curse packs a lot of elements into a ride with less than 3,000 feet of track. I love this ride's pacing. There is not any dead spots. Then in terms of smoothness, this ride is immaculately smooth. That should be no surprise if you've ridden any of Vekoma's newer coasters. They make arguably the smoothest coasters in the industry now. So what would I rate Siren's Curse? I would give this coaster a 9.5 out of 10. This is an excellent coaster. While the tilt track looks like a gimmick, it is an amazing element. It builds suspense and offers a plunge comparable to a drop tower. That alone would make this ride great. So when you add in all those additional airtime moments, 2 great inversions, and wonderful pacing, this ride is an absolute winner. This immediately became one of my favorite rides at Cedar Point, and I cannot wait to see more of these tilt coasters open. Before wrapping up, some final thoughts. If you're one of my European viewers, this ride feels like Phoenix at Farope Summerland. Just put a tilt track on the start. Everything else feels similar to that ride, which is a good thing. Should this ride have gone to Cedar Point? Probably not. They had just gotten coasters the prior 2 seasons, and they already had a dive coaster in Valraven, whose signature moment is a theatric vertical drop much like this ride. Had this gone to another park, I think it would have stood out more both on the skyline and the ride lineup. There are several parks in the chain where this could have been the park's top coaster. At Cedar Point, It is probably a top 5 ride for most enthusiasts, but I have not seen many places as their favorite ride in the park. One of the reasons this coaster was an odd choice for Cedar Point was because of the aforementioned Valraven, especially since that ride is right next door to Siren's Curse. While Valraven is taller, I think Siren's Curse offers a better drop. The tilt mechanism is far scarier than a holding brake in my opinion, and I think the drop offers better sensations. While dive coasters have a lot of float, they don't usually offer that stomach drop sensation I got in Siren's Curse. Then I far prefer what comes afterwards in Siren's Curse as well. They are more plentiful and stronger elements. The two cross vehicles are way more agile, meaning you can pack in tighter maneuvers. Those are my thoughts on Siren's Curse at Cedar Point, the New-for-2025 tilt coaster. What are your thoughts on this ride? Do you think it should have gone to this park? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.